Hello from my side. Initially, I would like to say a few things, not to lose the big picture. We're not doing technology for technology, and we're not doing regulation for regulation. The big picture is that we have realized that the real value is on health data. On health data that should follow the patient, cross-border or even in national settings. We have more borders within, for example, Greece or other countries, and we have other borders across countries in the European Union. In that sense, what we're fighting for is to be able to support the flow of health data among different systems. And this is not a fantasy. This is not a fantasy because an analogy, an example could be the DICOM, the images that flows from one system to the other system for different vendors in different countries. We have an example of the cross-border, the e-prescription systems that we have the flow of prescriptions and dispensations among different national e-prescription systems. So this is a proof that is feasible. This is feasible. So we have to agree that we're trying to support this information, this health data flow among different systems, and for this we need an agreement. Interoperability is an agreement. The technical stuff are ready. The technical solutions are there. We need to collaborate in order to satisfy this need of interoperability of health data among different systems, among different vendors, among different use cases. In that sense, we may have the best specifications, we may produce the best guidelines, we may produce the best structures, but if we do not collaborate with the industry, will not be feasible. If this does not pass via the industry and the vendors, we will not be able to satisfy our initial aim. In that sense, that's why we have this industry forum, and I think it will be a major element of our work, Mr. Schizas, for all the next period of the work of this joint action. And we need to find a way to make the industry interact on the way to adopt the specifications. One way, one methodology is the consultation period that we will support, but also we can have additional events, additional governance structures to support this interaction. One way to support it is the conformity assessment. In Work Package 8, with our colleagues from Finland, THL, we're producing the basis for this conformity assessment framework, and we're trying to do it in a way to have a pragmatic, readiness-based approach for adoption. That means we will not have from day 1 to day 2 the full compliance. Not all vendors, not all systems are mature enough or related enough to these specific use cases, but we have to be able to support fast and cheap adoption for big and small vendors. This to be done, we need a roadmap, we need ways to support via guidelines and via testing events over time in order at the end to fulfill this target. The conformity assessment framework includes a conformity assessment scheme, which is specific to products, specific to functions, specific to categories of systems that Juha gave an idea in his presentation. So it should be clear who needs to take care of specific requirements and try to adopt it in his systems. The conformity assessment scheme includes two crucial parts. One is the governance of the conformity assessment, and the second is the content. The content in our case and the way we have designed the methodology depends a lot on a data-oriented approach that is very close to the 5 or 6 priority areas already defined. So that means for each use case, for each priority areas, we have specific data elements, and for each data elements, we have specific requirements. So any system includes part of these data elements, needs to be compatible, needs to comply, needs to be able to exchange such data. So if we move into technical details, we will all agree it's not something, okay, content is difficult, semantics is not so easy, it's not like DICOM, but at the end, there are solutions. There are solutions if we agree to acquire this common language. So concerning the governance, I think which will be really important for the organization of our work. Progressive adoption is one of the key elements in order to support the vendors. And then the second important concept is the self-assessment procedures that needs to comply with the regulation, with the articles of the regulation. So at the end, we'll have to ensure that for each member state, we will have an equal way to adopt the governance model. Now, concerning the content of the conformity assessment scheme, as you have said, we're not starting from scratch. We can reuse a lot of elements that already are in place. For example, we have the Eurocast experience that is one of the major input for our work. And we're trying to see what we can inherit from Eurocast and adapt it in the new regulation and work with it. The other examples is the IHC CAS, the Swiss example, labeled to enable CAS that had to do with health applications, and also what we will receive from the previous technical work packages, 5, 6, and 7. They define metadata, general metadata. They define specific data to be exchanged. So actually, they define what needs to be tested. And it will be very, very specific, what needs to be tested. It has to do with general and some specific data elements per priority area. Of course, all these assertions, because we will have, for example, specific testable assertions, which could be automatically be tested. We have the experience from the projectathons or from other national events. But also there will be a means of verification of other additional requirements. So these two types of things to be tested needs to be in an unbiased self-assessment tool. The harmonized components, as you have said before, the two major ones is the interoperability and the logging. Although some security and some general requirements will be included in the testable material. So, in order to conclude, key points, because I think before we start the work, we have to agree on the governance, and we have to agree on our organization, the way we will collaborate in the near future. We know that testing procedures can evolve and will be based on a readiness or a maturity model like the one produced in the Expand DH project or other readiness models that we will agree upon in order to have this continuous evolvement of adoption. We will have some required and some optional fields, and we have to monitor this gradual adoption. Change management process and waves will be similar to the ones that you know happening in the My Health at EU environment. So by this way, each vendor will have an idea what is coming in the next wave of adoption, we'll have an idea what is required to adopt now and what is optional to be required maybe in the future. In that way, they will be able to have a plan, a development plan, because we know it's different from the regulation or from the European Commission point of view, the timeline, and we know that this timeline is totally different most of the times for the vendors, because it depends on the way they have built their system, depends on their investments, depends on a lot more things. My Health at EU testing platform is something that will evolve in order to support this work. And finally, I think the idea of the projectathon, the concept, should be expanded and should be able to support this interaction with the vendors. Thank you.